here is an innie. You know how like belly buttons? I'm an outie and he's an innie. So we're back talking about that as well. But the support from the islands has just been amazing. It really has.
So tell us a little bit then about what are your favourite stories and favourite recipes from the book? Or books, both books. You've got two to draw on now.
Well, let's think, favourite stories. Well, there is a story I think that does kind of encapsulate kind of maybe me and the island. It's actually in my first book, and it's a story about my father. As I said, my father liked a dram and liked to tell a story, to say the least. And he was a fisherman, so between Monday and Friday he would go out in his trawler fishing boat out in the North Atlantic. But on a Saturday, he had a wee fishing boat and a few creels, lobster creels and that kind of thing. He would row out from the village to his lobster creels. And, well, as I said, this story was told after a few drams. So, who likes the Golden Girls? Right, picture it. Outer Hebridean, 1988. So my father tells the story that he's rowing home from the lobster creels one day, and happily rowing home, and suddenly, bang! And he realizes he's crashed into another boat. Not only has he crashed into another boat, he's crashed into the Royal Yacht Britannia. And who's leaning over? I actually kind of need to do it because I got like a visual story. Who's leaning over the side of the boat? One with a cigarette and one talking to her, but the Queen and Princess Margaret. Princess Margaret was, what's the kind of fancy thing that you put the cigarette in? I don't know what you call it, right? So she's sitting there with that. And the Queen leans down and says, "Where have you been, my father?" He goes, "Oh, I've been out to the creels." "Where have you been?" he says. And the Queen says, "Oh, well," she says, "we're on our way to Balmoral for our holidays." "Oh, very good. But we've broken down." "Oh, that's terrible. Have you got anything in for tea?" he says. And tea means dinner, According to my father, the Queen said nothing. The Queen said, "I haven't got anything in for dinner," which I'd be surprised if she left Buckingham Palace with nothing in for dinner. Maybe had some biscuits or something. Anyway, so my father says, "Well, would you like some shellfish?" "Oh yes," she said, "I'd be delighted." Now, according to my father, the Queen, Princess Margaret is very adept at catching a rope. So he seemingly he knew this in advance. So he threw the rope up to Princess Margaret, and she heaped the creel full of lobsters onto the deck. So she did that, and then the Queen went, "I'm the Queen. I don't carry any money. How am I going to pay you for this?" And my father said, "Don't worry, it's a gift from the village." And she said, "Thank you very much." Then Princess Margaret, with a cigarette hanging out the side of her mouth, said, "Do you smoke?" And my father said, "Yes." Now my father, as an old fisherman did, smoked the old tobacco, kind of roll up tobacco kind of things. And so now this is when we started to wonder about the story. She had that fancy, those thin kind of boxes of cigarettes, the menthol cigarettes. She put that into the creel and threw it back down. So when he showed us this box of cigarettes, we were like, wait, because the nearest shop's nearly 40 miles away. Where would you have got those? Anyway, so according to my father, he waved goodbye to the Queen and Princess Margaret and rode back to the village. Now, our house is near the end of the village. So, what did my father do? Went to number 1, got a dram, told the story. Went to number 2, got a dram, told the story. I won't tell you what number house we are. What I will say, when I was going to write the story in the book, I went round the people in the village to ask, did they remember the story? Some people, Prince Philip came in the boat. One house, he was dancing on the deck with Princess Diana. So each house had their own version of the story. Anyway, we heard the story, we didn't believe a word. Now, my father's name was Dolian MacLeod, so Donald John MacLeod. But in a village of 30 houses, there was another 7 Donald John MacLeods in the village. We're not very, innovative with our names. So I remember that morning, I could see the man across the loch, who was also Donald John MacLeod, running round the loch with a lighter, like this, for my father. And he comes to the door, I think this is for you, he says. And he has this envelope, and there's a stamp from Balmoral. So we all look at it, and he opens it, and we're like, read it. We said in Gaelic to read the letter. And he said, Dear Mr. MacLeod, firstly, will you apologise to the village if we caused any problems when we broke down a couple of weeks ago? We feasted on your lobsters and shellfish that night, and we had the best meal on our trip to Balmoral. Hope to see you next year. Lizzie, I don't remember how she sounds her name, Lizzie or Queenie, whoever she is. And we were like, he was actually telling the truth. And I honestly think I might be one of the only people in the world that can say that my father gave the Queen craps. And she said thank you as well. And we still have the letter up on the wall at home. So if you ever come and visit, then you can see the letter up on the wall. So as you can see, definitely my father tells the good stories in the family.
Oh. So you're mentioning the Gaelic language there. That was the language of your home.
Yes.
And is predominantly spoken in the Highlands and Islands of Scotland. Tell us a wee bit about Gaelic and the impact Gaelic has had on your own life.
Yes. Well, Gaelic agad. Well, Gaelic is, for those of you who don't know, the Gaelic language is spoken by 60,000 people in the world. So we are a minority language, but we're very, very proud of our language, and it's important for us to keep it alive. So I think there's a feeling for every person that speaks it that they have a responsibility in a way, and I'm very proud that even if I've made that tiny wee difference to keep the language alive. For those of you who don't know, Peter, or Patrick as his name is in Gaelic, he has his own TV show on BBC Alba, which is the Gaelic BBC channel. So if you do, I know you need one of those dodgy VPNs. Sorry, I know I shouldn't be encouraging this. But if you get one of those VPN things, you might be able to watch BBC and watch his gardening show on BBC Alba. And there is subtitles until you're fluent. There's subtitles. But the Gaelic language is very important to us, and I suppose the thing about Gaelic or growing up on the islands, maybe it's a wee bit different. The men on the islands were very used to speaking Gaelic, we're very used to cooking, and we're also very used to singing as well. Which maybe, that maybe isn't such a common thing in other parts, that singing is a big part of our culture. And there's a thing called the Royal National Mod. Does anybody know what the Royal National Mod is? Jihan, what is it?
It's a festival of
It's on. It went off like a second ago. It's on. There's
Correct. Yes. So it basically is. It's kind of like. Has anybody heard of the Eurovision Song Contest?
Oh yeah.
It's a bit like Eurovision, but less fireworks, more kilts, and people actually call it the Whiskey Olympics because there's not only 2,000 singers there, but it's a week of drinking basically as well to get through. But it's been going for 150 years, and it's actually how we met. If there is any Hollywood directors looking for a Hebridean rom-com, I was going to sing, I think it was 2016, I was singing in the Silver Pendant, which is there's solo competitions, there's duet competitions, there's quartets, there's choirs, there's dancing, there's bagpipes, accordion competitions throughout the whole week. And I was singing in one called the Silver Pendant, which you have to sing 4 different songs, and there's like semi-finals, finals, all very exciting. And I got a call from BBC Alba, the Gaelic channel, to say we're doing a documentary about 4 of the singers, following their journey to the competition. Would you could we follow you? Oh, yes, I said, of course. So this is great. There'll be somebody to meet you at Stornoway Airport on Monday, and they'll follow you for the week. And he was the cameraman. Now, it wasn't such a good. I know I've got an author behind Jeff here. It wasn't the happy ending because I didn't win. I came second, but I did return the year after, and I did win. I did win. And then the year after, I persuaded Peter.
Persuaded is a stretch of the truth. He entered us for a duet competition without telling us. And then we learned the song.
Yes.
But lo and behold,
we won. Well, to the shock of us and I think everyone in the audience. I remember asking him, has anybody heard of the band Runrig? Yeah. Runrig. Well, I was backing one of the backing singers for Runrig on their final tour, and it was at Stirling Castle, 25,000 people a night, and Peter was in the audience and I was one of the backing singers, and I kind of saw him at the side of the stage and I was like, do you want to sing at the Mud? And he went, okay.
I thought you were shouting hello. Bring me a hot
Do
dog.
you want a drum? So we sang. Now, the first time we entered, we won.
Wow.
The second time we entered, we came second. Last year we came fourth. Most people get better. We're getting worse as the years go on. But would you like to hear a song?
Yes.
She overpromised it. Remember, we came fourth.
Well, I have another tonight.
Exactly. Yes, definitely take the empty one. Well, there was one. There's a style of music in Gaelic called Push the Bial. Okay, and Push the Bial music, it's called mouth music. Okay, and Push the Bial was from a time when, on the islands, there wasn't much money, and people maybe couldn't afford to have instruments in the village. But they had a thing called Dansarad, the road dance. And they would just on a Friday or Saturday night gather at a part of the road and just have a ceilidh, just have some songs and do a wee dance. And so they created this style of music, so even if there wasn't instruments in the village, the style of music allowed them to still create the style of dance through Strathspey and Reel. And so the one we're going to sing, and I'm going to need a drum to do this, it's called, are you want a drum?
No thanks.
Okay. So it's a, I think that was Jill actually. It's usually in 3 parts, and the writer of this one, the first one is called Seanach na Gumarich. So this is about a lady called Joan, and he loved Joan. Joan was a cracker.
She was the belle of the
She
ball.
was the belle of the ball. He really liked Seanach. He wasn't so keen of the other Caillochs, the other ladies in the village. The other song we're going to sing is Ben and Drochnada, and that is the
bad-tempered wife.
and I'm not looking at anybody while I'm going to sing this, but the bad-tempered wife is the second song, and the third one is Mian na Caliche Croftige Krugi, which is the daughter of the hunchbacked lady. See, he wasn't keen on the other Caillochs in the village at all, the other ladies, but he did like Seanach. So, shall we give this a go? See how we get on. Right. Okay. I think I start, so better take it down. See if I remember the words. Right. Okay. Oh, we're on the. You're on the wrong side.
Uh-oh. There's a presenting duo in the UK called Ant and Dec, and they never appear on the other side.
Exactly.
We were the wrong way around.
We were the wrong way around. Okay. Now I'm deaf and that year, so now we're not. You're deaf and that year. Keep an eye on it.
This is going to improve it.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. So. Seanach na Gumarich go báoch a chrúneaigí.
Seanach na Gumarich sa chula fér an tórala.
Seanach na Gumarich go báoch a chrúneaigí.
Seanach na Gumarich sa chula fér an tórala.
Saun na rair a chunami, chola mi sa chunami. Saun na rair a chunami na cula van an Seanach.
Saunare Hunami, Holami, Suhanami, Graunare Hunami, the Kudavan, Shonach, Shonach, the Gumarich, Gaboyo, Kakunyaki, Shonach, the Gumarich, Subale, Fair and Torah, Shonach, the Gumarich, Gaboyo, Kakunyaki, Shonach, the Gumarich, Subale, Fair and Torah, Saunare Hunami, Holami, Suhanami, Saunare Hunami, the Kudavan, Shonach. Saunare Hunami, Holami, Saunami, Graunare Hunami, the Kudavan Shonish. Benendrochnater, Spekaram Hini, Benendrochnater Yoni. 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 Biri Kirchen, Biri Kraven, Benendrochnater Yoni. Biri Kirchen, Biri Kraven, Benendrochnater Yoni. Biri Kirchen, Biri Kraven, Benendrochnater Yoni. Benendrochnater, Spekaram Hini, Benendrochnater Yoni. Ni an de Kaliche Krottige Krub, ich hundige Cool, Strategiram, Verbiki Kassama Shakaran Null, and hundige Cool, Strategiram. Ni an de Kaliche Krottige Krub, ich hundige Cool, Strategiram, Verbiki Kassama Shakaran Null, and hundige Cool, Strategiram. Hundige Cool, Hundige Cool, Hundige Cool, Strategiram, Hundige Cool, Hundige Cool, Hundige Cool, Strategiram, Hundige Cool, Verbigan Tool, and Hundige Cool, Strategiram. Ni an de Kaliche Krottige Krub, ich hundige Cool, Strategiram.
That's why we came fourth.
As long as it wasn't last.
True. Well, we say that. We didn't tell him any entered.
So the mod, there's actually a North American mod happening this year for the first time as part of the 25th celebrations of New York City Tartan Day. So if anybody's interested in learning a Gaelic song, then who knows, the new New York winning mod champion may be in our midst.
Yeah, so next month, New York Tartan Week, which is I think about the 13th of April or so.
Yep.
About that date.
Yep.
We'll be in New York and that's a week trip down. And it's the first ever Gaelic song contest in New York.
Oh, a winner from Boston.
A winner from Boston, I think it'll be Berlin. But also the day before we're having a Gaelic fish. So we're doing a full day. You can learn how to speak Gaelic, learn how to sing Gaelic in different ways, and we're doing ceilidh dancing and everything. So it's going to be a great couple of days. So.
And if anyone is interested in learning Gaelic, then Duolingo app has a Gaelic learning facility. And there's also an amazing programme by BBC Alba on YouTube called Speak Gaelic. So it's quite an easy one, an easy title to remember.
It is. It is.
So, Achanich, cookbook.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
talk some food. We were in Washington the last 2 days, and there was a lady from the bookshop, and she came up to us afterwards. This was quite funny. We were just chatting there, and I said to some friends who came, I said, she looked like Whitney Houston's auntie. And I'm like, who was Whitney Houston's auntie? And he says, was it Celine Dion?
I stumbled and said Dion Warwick.
I really wish Celine Dion was Whitney Houston's auntie. What was I talking about again?
I don't know, I'm not speaking to you.
What was I talking about? How did I get on? Oh, the lady. And she said, she said, oh, we have these book events like twice a week. And we have to stay late and they're hard work. And when I heard we had another one, I was thinking, oh, James, here's 2 old men from Scotland coming over to talk about it. But she said, within a minute, she was encapsulated. She was like, I want to hear everything. But you know what she said? She was like, you're a cookbook author and you didn't mention recipes once. So we better talk about cakes or something, I guess. I tend to forget that I actually bake as well. Sorry about that. But,
so, what is the inspiration for the food in here? Like, what are the main food groups that you work with? Because obviously it's a Scottish cookbook.
Yeah.
There are traditional elements, but modern twists.
Yeah. So I think that the first thing I love is
some amazing old Scottish cookbooks. One of my favourites is F. Marion McNeill. She wrote The Scots Kitchen, 1929, she wrote that. And really, at the time, she had Orkney connections, I think.
She had an interesting history, didn't she? She had connections to Orkney and the West Coast.
Yeah.
So she had the kind of Nordic, North,
Yes.
Norn, and Scots side to her character, but also the West Coast. And she grew up on the sea. So.
Yeah, and she, at the time in the 1920s, was also worried that the recipes and stories would be lost. So she wrote this book. You know, a little bit of a similar goal to myself.
He did show me a recipe one time in it that was for limpet stovies.
Yeah,
that did not sound very good.
She has got one. I think my first cookbook, you know, when you're a Scottish cookbook author, you do need the best shortbread recipe you can imagine, you know. And so I literally went north, south, east, west. And the one I chose, and what I love doing, is finding recipes that have a story. So like, I'm just kind of picturing you in your, I don't know, New England, you know, country retreat, weekend retreat, and you've got people coming to visit. I'm picturing you all in that kind of like, you know, with Martha Stewart, or if she's not in prison, I don't know. Like baking, but then when people come round, telling the story. You know, I want you to tell the stories of the bake, and there's one called a bride's bon. It is a Shetland recipe actually. And a bride's bon is a classic shortbread. It's a petticoat tail shortbread. But you can see the influences from Norway because the flavour that they put in, or the ingredient, is caraway seeds, which isn't a Scottish thing at all, but it's a very common Norwegian ingredient to put in. But the great thing about the bride's bon is it's made by the mother of the bride on the day of the wedding. And as most mothers, you know, you would think they would give their daughters a hug when they come home from the wedding. No, not in Shetland, not in Scotland. When she comes home from the wedding, she picks up the shortbread and she smashes it over her daughter's head. And all the guests try and catch a piece of the shortbread, because if you catch a piece, you put it under your pillow at night, and you're supposed to dream of your future Hebridean husband with no teeth, or whoever you would have. So I hope, and there's like the Scots flummery as well, I got that from another Scottish cookbook, and similarly Flora MacDonald was halfway through a Scots flummery when she was arrested for helping Bonnie Prince Charlie escape from Culloden. And I just imagine her going, no, I just need to finish, I just need to get back. She kind of finishes her Scots flummery. A flummery is like, it's sort of like a syllabub, I suppose. It's like a kind of whipped cream, but with whiskey and marmalade, and oh, it's delicious. Aye. So I like a recipe with a story, but there's a couple in the cookbook. I don't know what the American version would be. There's a show in Britain called This Morning. You know, one of the shows like 10 o'clock till 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and there'd be celebrities and there'd be somebody bake. You know, that kind of show. The one, maybe the Today Show, or the one with Whoopi Goldberg, that kind of thing. Anyway, I've been on that the last few weeks, and in the cookbook, I was going to put a cockaliki soup. Cockaliki soup. Scottish people are good at making soup, and cockaliki soup is one of our most famous soups. Anyway, when I was doing the photo shoot for the book, Susie, my photographer, I came out with the soup, very proud of myself, you know, that I made the soup. And she was like, oh, she says, cockaliki soup. And I kind of, oh no, can I wait? And I was like, what do you mean? She says, I have a bit of a trouble with it. And cockaliki soup, the cock means chicken. Leaky, leek, of course. But the third, does that mean what the third ingredient is originally in cockaliki?
Prunes.
Prunes. Yes. Now, when you're photographing a clear soup with prunes.
No wonder your photographer rolled her eyes.
She was like, I'm not. So I trudged back to the kitchen going, right, that's me with 74 recipes, not 75. And that night I realized I had all this chicken, I had all these prunes, I had all these leeks. So there was a few people around. I thought, oh, I'll slow cook it into a pie. And like a bit of pastry on top, and made that. And he said, that is the best thing you've ever made. No,
Well, I says, I'm looking for an extra. Should I put that in my book? And he goes, put that in the book.
Yes.
Anyway, so I was.
But there's a typo in your book, isn't there?
Oh yeah, if you're going to make it, you'll see in the photo, I think it's in the first chapter, you'll see in the photo there is carrots in the pie. I forgot to put carrots in the recipe. So just put that in or some with vegetables or something, because I forgot to write it in. So it needs a little bit of oomph, you know. But I was on this morning a few weeks ago and they asked me to make the cockleiki pie. And there's two presenters, and you can imagine there's a few innuendos kind of going about. And when you're live on television, it's not something I'm used to doing, so I didn't plan what I was going to say. And what I was trying to say, because if you see in the book, there is a little cockerel I made out of pastry. Right, that's what I was trying to say on live television. But oh no, not me. I tried to explain to the presenter that I have not a cookie cutter at home, that I have a cocky cutter at home. And he looked at me and he was like, this I want to see. As I like placed on the top. And it kind of went.
The chicken.
Yeah. I went a wee bit viral, but the cockleiki pie.
That's a winner.
Oh, it's a winner. It really is a winner. So definitely have that one. But it is full of delicious, just things. The way I want to say it is, if your auntie's coming round to visit, take my cookbook out, and you'll find something that your auntie will enjoy. That's. If you know what I mean, that's how I want you to use the cookbook in that way. So.
What about if Auntie likes cocktails?
I'm glad you finished that sentence. There is some cocktails in the book, and my favourite one is actually using the Harris gin, which you can get now in America. And I know a lot of people like the gin, but a lot of people love the bottle even more. And it's so pretty. But my lemon curd cocktail. That's the one. Now I put it in my afternoon tea chapter because I know all the English folk like to have tea with afternoon tea. We like to have a dram. So I put the lemon curd cocktail in that chapter, and it really is very special. So
Lots of store-covered ingredients.
no, I like a cocktail that. You know, sometimes you get a cocktail and it says gin, but then it says creme de this, or things you're never going to have. So this has got gin, lemon juice. I think do you call it simple syrup? Sugar syrup. Yeah, and you know how to make that, don't you? Just 100 grams. No, right, that's the other thing as well. Forget all this cup shenanigans. And when you're on your way home tonight, buy yourself scales, please. 100 grams caster sugar, 50 mils of water, and you'll have enough sugar syrup for cocktails for the weekend. And a big dollop of lemon curd, and that gives it that kind of creaminess. Honestly, it's going to be your cocktail of the summer. I promise. Summer, spring, winter, autumn, whatever. You're going to be having that for sure.
So, tell us a little bit about, you've been touching on what's coming up for you, but what other things have you been up to? I know that there are some big things and some small things.
Aye. Oh, well,
It's been a year of yes.
It has been a year. Do you remember that Jim Carrey movie, The Yes Man, where he had to say yes for a year? I'm kind of having that kind of year myself. So that gets me everything from 2 weeks ago we were in a Gaelic school in Glasgow. A lot of people who don't speak Gaelic send their children to the Gaelic school because they see the benefit of having bilingual children. So we went to meet the parents who don't speak Gaelic to teach them how to integrate Gaelic in their day-to-day life. So if they're baking with the kids or gardening with the kids, how to put a few Gaelic words in. So it could be anything from that to being on TV shows or those kind of things. But one thing, and we're going to do a wee quiz now, okay? One thing that is fun, and Jeff mentioned it, is the shortbread and Otis. There's a wonderful bakery in the island called Stag Bakeries, and I worked with them for a year to create a range of 6 different flavoured shortbreads and Otis. So we've got whiskey shortbread, marmalade shortbread. It's amazing. Heather honey shortbread, mixed Scottish berries. What else we got there? Lemon and ginger chocolate. So they're out in the UK now, but not out in the US. If there's anybody who has a shop or an importer online, but hopefully they'll be out in the US.
But those are the only 2 boxes
These are
in
the
the US.
yes, basically that's the only 2. So 2 of you are going to win these.
Literally a surprise.
This is a prize that money cannot buy. But would you be up for a wee Scottish quiz? Right. Okay. Would you be all okay for standing up for the quiz? Yes. Yes. Let's go for office present. And I know most of you are quite like a dram, so maybe we'll have a prize for the gin as well here. Now, what was that? Who was on a Jeopardy again?
Alex Trebek.
Right. Okay. I know. Oh, you've been outside this whole time.
I've just arrived.
Oh, you just arrived, right?
Flying
Well,
the local transit.
come on in. I'm no Alex Trebek, that's for sure. This is very self-policed, but I'm going to ask a question, and I'm going to give you 2 answers. Okay? One answer will hopefully be correct. He says. One will not. So if you think the first answer is correct, you'll put your hand up. If you think the second answer is correct, keep your hands down. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right, okay. So I'll start, I'll warm you up a wee bit first. Okay. So many of you might know that there is a Scottish Parliament, and we're just about to have some elections for our new First Minister. Sadly, our current First Minister is departing. But what is her name? So, put your hands up if you think her name is Margaret Thatcher. And keep your hands down if you think it's Nicola Sturgeon. And I'm going to kill anybody. No. So hands up for Margaret Thatcher, hands down for Nicola Sturgeon. Right, I'm glad. You can all stay. You can all stay. You can all stay. Right, okay, let's get serious now. Right, okay. Okay, this might test you a wee bit. Can I start with a challenging one? Okay. So the Outer Hebrides, they go from the Isle of Lewis in the north to the islands of Barra and Battersea in the south. Okay? But how many inhabited islands are there in the Outer Hebrides? Okay.
That's hard even for...
I know.
You are mean.
I am mean, yes. But with these biscuits. I know they're good. So, if you think there are 15 inhabited islands in the Outer Hebrides, put your hand up. If you think there is 18 inhabited islands in the Outer Hebrides, keep your hands down. And inhabited means there's more than 10 of us on the island. Okay? So hands up for 15 and hands down for 18. Okay? Hands up for 15, hands down for 18. Oh, there's people like to go like this. Okay, final answer? Is 15. So if you, I know you weren't all sitting, but if you didn't get it right, you can sit down or at least kind of hover, or show that you're not in the quiz anymore. Okay, next question. Let's make it a Scottish question. What is the national animal of Scotland? Okay. Put your hands up if you think it's a stag. And keep your hands down if you think it's a unicorn. Hands up for stag, hands down for unicorn. All ready? It's a unicorn. The magical country of Scotland. Okay. So, seeing you're all going to be going on a Gaelic journey very soon, and you've already downloaded Duolingo, I'm going to ask you a Gaelic one, okay? So, my favourite ingredient, or the thing I could eat 3 times a day, is porridge. I love porridge, okay? But what is the Gaelic word for porridges? Okay? Put your hands up if you think it's aran, and keep your hands down if you think it's brochan. So hands up for Aaron and hands down for brochan.
50-50 at heart.
Up for Aaron and down for brochan.
You're a rod.
Well, either we've got a lot of Gaelic speakers in the room, I don't know. All think it's brochan.
Yes.
Okay, you're correct.
Duolingo 10 points.
Aaron is the Gaelic for, does anybody want to guess?
Bread.
Bread.
Now, there is a caveat here. If you're from people from Lewis, we don't call it brochan. We are a pain in the neck in Lewis, so we have different words for everything. We call it leech on Lewis. It's a bit like, does anybody know what the Gaelic for whiskey is? Uisce behe. And uisce is the Gaelic for water. Apart from on Lewis. But uisce is the Gaelic for rain. But the Gaelic for water is born. So we are awkward. Even though there are 60,000 of us, we still try and make it more awkward for the 60,000 of us. But there we go. Right then.
How many are still in?
How many are still in? You're trying to hover in. Are you still in? You're in. Right, come on in. Okay. Oh, still a few. Goodness, you're hardcore. Much better than Washington. They were out after the second question. So, right then. So I know you all hope to come to the Hebrides for your holidays. Okay? So, but how do you get there? Well, most people will come by ferry, okay, over from the mainland of Scotland. So if you were going to visit the Isle of Lewis, where on the mainland would you get the ferry? Okay? You're going to need to know this if you're coming to visit me. Okay? So, if you think you get the ferry from Ullapool, put your hands up. If you think you get the ferry from Uig, keep your hands down. So hands up for Ullapool and hands down for Uig. What did I say? Hands up for what? Up for Ullapool. It's Ullapool. Congratulations. You could get to the island from Uig as well. Uig's on Skye and you go to Harris. But we said Lewis. So how many are left in the quiz? 1, 2. What are you doing out there coming in? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Change your good. Right then. Okay. Right then. Let's think of another one. What of these two Hebridean islands, which is the most northerly? Okay. Put your hands up if you think North Uist. Keep your hands down if you think Burnaby. So most northerly of these two Hebridean islands. North Uist, hands up. Burnaby, hands down. Are you just looking for more whiskey? So hands up for North Uist and hands down for Burnaby. Burnaby is just north of North Uist. Okay, so how many have we got left now? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. You're going to win the whiskey. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, okay, I've got a couple more questions. Unless you right, I think we'll get it on the next one. So, critic me now. Right, okay. As I said, you're much better than. Oh, I've got a good one. Yes, I've got a good one. Right. Robbie Burns. You all know who Robbie Burns is? Yeah, okay. So you know Robbie Burns, but who is he married to? What was his wife's name? Oh, now you're not so. So, put your hands up if you think he was married to Mary Campbell, and keep your hands down if you think he's married to Jean Armour. So hands up for Mary Campbell, Hands down for Jean Arma. Hands up for Mary Campbell. Hands down for Jean Arma.
Yeah.
What's that? You're only married to one. Yes. So hands up for Mary Campbell. I can't remember who's in the quiz anymore, so. Okay. And it was Jean Arma. So who's still in the quiz?
Mary Campbell is his girlfriend.
Yeah, Mary Campbell is his girlfriend. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I think we can do this. Okay, congratulations to our 4 winners. You can choose between a Jura 10-year-old whiskey, a Harris Distillery gin, or the biscuits. I know, look at that, she's like, if I don't get the whiskey, she's saying, if I don't get the whiskey, I'm disappointed. So, gin, well, you asked first, so there we go. Who shares whiskey?
I should biscuits.
Biscuits? Okay, biscuits, get everyone the whiskey.
Just want the empty bottle.
Is there gin?
Sure.
Yeah, there's one on the table.
Who's the other 2 winners? The biscuits? There we go. Congratulations. You can decide which one's between you again. So well done, everybody. Congratulations. And you, oh, I thought there was only 4 left.
Here's the whiskey.
Okay, right. Sorry, I thought there was only 4. You're too small. In Scotland, when we do this, the wee ones get miniature whiskies. It's a wee bottle. It's a wee bottle. So, well, everybody, thank you for indulging us in that little bit of fun. Patrick, how do you finish last week?
Well, would anyone like to ask Cognac any questions?
Oh yeah, questions.
We should have warned people.
I know we should have asked. We should have
Where's the
asked.
dog while you're away?
Oh, the dog is with Granny in Oban, and my dad phoned last night and he said, Shorus keeps barking at me, I think he's very hungry, so I've just fed him 2 duck eggs. So we're expecting to go home to quite a chubby wee dog.
He's the most spoiled dog in the world. Yes, when we were in Washington, it was quite a big event. There was 160 people at the event last night, and a few people that were like, we've brought you a gift. Oh my goodness, thank you very much. Well, we brought Shorus a gift. Shorus gets all the presents. So we have to bring an empty bag just for Shorus' present. Yes, he's been well looked after, for sure. Any other questions or comments?
So you obviously Outer Hebrides way out there. Where's the most random, like far-flung place that's like completely opposite to the islands? Like way, you know, you have like this way out area, 60,000 people,
Yes.
and then like, Vegas or one of those sort of places like where it's completely opposite to where you live.
Well, I don't know if it's completely opposite, but I'll give you 2. Okay. One, because it's just such a unique place. Have you heard of the islands of St. Kilda? Yeah. These are a very unique set of islands that were inhabited until 1931, yeah. And you were recently there filming, actually.
I was,
yeah.
I got to stay there for 5 nights, which was amazing.
So St. Kilda is a set of islands about 44 miles off the west coast of Lewis, and they were inhabited up until the 30s. They have a very unique history, a very unique storyline to them and the people. There was a moment where there was a lot of illness, and obviously, if you were going to get married, there wasn't very far to go. So they had to bring in new people. So there was a moment, if you look at any photos from St. Kilda, all the men were completely clean, like not even clean shaven, as if they couldn't grow beards. And then they brought in new blood. And then you fast forward 30 years later, and look at these huge big beards. Like, but it's a very unique place, and you can do day trips to St. Kilda when you come to the islands, and I would really encourage it. It's a challenging trip. It's 3.5 hours from quite a
a fast boat, but it's very, very, very special indeed. But our Las Vegas is Inverness. You grow up on the Isle of Lewis. Where you go for your to go shopping or to get things would be Inverness, which is you get an hour to the ferry, but 4 hours in the ferry, then 2 hours to Inverness. And when I go to Inverness now, I thought this was Las Vegas. To me, it was I was like, wow, I'm in Las Vegas. It's not really like Las Vegas.
But it is really full of monsters.
It's true. Yes, ma'am.
Where is the Isle of Lewis in relation to the Isle of Mull?
Oh, well, so the Isle of Lewis is the most northerly of the Outer Hebrides, and the Isle of Mull is in the Inner Hebrides. So Lewis would be like Massachusetts, and Mull would be like Kentucky, I suppose. No, as in they're in the south, they're one of the southern lands, but it's a beautiful island. And we were there quite recently, and what's very special if you ever get to Mull is that you can do a wee hop over to 2 different islands. One's called Iona, which many of you will know as where St. Columba started the Christianity and the church in Scotland. And then the beautiful island of Staffa. And what's unique about Staffa, if you've heard of the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, well, Staffa is the bit that broke off. And that all those kind of what do they call them? The kind of things in the Giant's Causeway? Columns of basalt, yeah. If you go to Staffa, it's a big empty bit with all the bits that were left over. And
Acoustics in it are amazing.
So Mendelssohn, this is when I get cultural, I pretend I'm cultured. Mendelssohn wrote the Hebrides Overture on the island of Staffa. So when you go home tonight, listen to the Hebrides Overture, and that was written on Staffa. So but definitely make it to Mull. It's a beautiful, beautiful island.
We were there.
You were there? Okay.
We didn't see the Giant's Causeway, we have to fix that.
So we're gonna take one more question. You can keep talking after that, but I need to give you the opportunity to sign the books for people who are here because we have another event at 6 p.m.
Yes, sir.
How old were you when you first started baking?
How old? Well, what am I now? I'm 23 now. Well, I've baked my whole life. I've been a passionate baker since I could lift my head above the stove and to watch my mother making her cookie dumplings and duff. But I would say up into my early 20s, I would have probably 10 things that I made really well. You know what I mean? I made the traditional island recipes from Chiamcropic to duff to all these things that we can talk about later. But I would say it's in the last 10 years that I've really kind of grown my experience of different recipes, and that's come from, as I said, doing lots of research into old Scottish cookbooks, friends and family. As I said, when I go to the co-op in Stornoway or to Charlie Barley's Butchers in Stornoway, I've always got a lady saying, I've got a recipe for you. And that's brilliant, I absolutely love that. So from that, I'd say the last 10 years I've really started to kind of develop my skills and learn more. So are you a baker?
No.
Started. Well, can we go one more?
Okay, final question.
Did you have to leave your ski and do at home?
Yes, I did. I did have to leave my skian. So, does everybody know what a skian do is? So, a skian is the Gaelic for a knife, and do is the Gaelic for black, so it's a black knife. And normally in your hose, your kill socks, you would have a skian here. And we say, let me get this right, left for love, right for war. That's where you're supposed to place it. So in other words, if you're going somewhere you're not sure how things are going to go, keep it in your right pocket. And your right sock. If you're feeling fine, if you're just going around to your auntie's house for some clooty dumplings, then you can put it in your left sock. But yes, I thought there's enough shenanigans going on in America. I better not bring my skiantu over. But I do have a new one. It's a lovely wooden skiantu. So I should have brought it over, but.
Well, thank you so much. You can continue to ask questions while you're getting books signed, but thank you for coming. Thank you.